This episode of the Mike on Much podcast is in partnership with Jameson. Good things come in threes. Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman, and I got to say, we're not here with our friend and trusty producer, Max Kerman. We'll get to that in a second, because we are here with trusty old pop culture aficionado Shane Cunningham and on the dials, intern Erica. Guys, we are Maxless at the moment. Today, I feel like, is a very frazzled day. We all came in. We're trying to knock this one off. It happens to be my daughter's birthday today, so I'm kind of like running in to do this. We're also doing an interview for a future pod after this, not with LeVar Ball, although a lot of people were asking that based on our Instagram because I was at the Raptors season opener, which we'll get to in a bit. But before that, guys, Max isn't here. He's trying to make it in from Hamilton.
I had trouble making it here, too.
From Hamilton?
No, from work, because baby came into the office.
Really?
And totally blocked me. Like I couldn't leave. And it was someone who hadn't been at the office in a while. Like someone who hadn't, someone on maternity leave who just came in the office with the baby. I wasn't
at work today. Normally Shane and I would walk over here together, but I'm off today because it's Winnie's birthday. But wait a second. So
very uncomfortable position. I grab. You asked me to bring in the audio equipment.
Yeah.
I grab the bag. I turn around. Baby with person who I hadn't seen in a while. I need to put in at least 10 minutes standing around looking at the baby time, which I'm glad to do with this person because I honestly wanted to talk to them and I wanted to see their baby. Normally it's a bit of a nuisance, but in this case it was only the time crunch I was under. Yeah. And then all these women started running towards the baby to look at it or him, and I couldn't get out. And I didn't want to not say goodbye, but I had to not say goodbye. I just had to do...
You ghosted the baby visit.
Yeah, I just got in the elevator and went down and just hoped no one saw me. And I'm going to have to just message her and say, oh, sorry for not saying bye, but I had to drop something off for Mike, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, you blame it on me. That's fine. It's, it's a frazzled day. Erica, you beat us all here. You were on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were killing it.
Yeah, well, we pushed it back 15 minutes for Sir Max, but but we want to set up the gear or whatever. So I'm still here.
And Max is quite the setup waiting for him.
Sir
right now.
Max, as Erica calls him.
Well, the reason she's calling him Sir Max is because he has a grande blonde roast waiting for him with the little thing in to preserve the heat. And then what has he got? He's eating a ham, cheese. And what is this?
I think it's egg bites.
Yeah, they're good.
Oh, those egg bites.
And then there's a little snack there.
He's got a sriracha
for the
sauce
egg bites.
He puts on his egg bites. And then he's got a Perrier can.
It's all prepped for him.
Yep.
There's a microphone sitting on a chair, and he's not here yet. In his defense, he was taking the bus in from Hamilton, and I guess there is a massive accident. Hopefully nobody is hurt, but that kept traffic back. Apparently he got on a 10 a.m. bus. It is now 12:30, so that's 2.5 hours door to door. We decided to start because, like I said, we have an interview booked after this, and we're hoping that he just comes in and jumps right in.
Bus or no bus, though, he's still a diva asshole.
This is also a crazy day for him because I think he's flying out. Like he flies out at 4 o'clock. They got a big Arkells tour, man. Lots going on.
Yeah, first class probably. Ooh, flying out.
No sympathy from Shane for Max. Other than that, guys, what's been going on? I mean, we're going to hold off on the topics until Maxie gets here. So,
well, why don't you recap your night the other night at the home open?
I could, but again, I spent a lot of it with Max, so I feel like he needs to
shit. You tell way better stories than Max. And you had way better seats than Max, too.
You did. Yeah, I saw that.
That did work out.
I wish he was here just to look at his face as you were describing how amazing your seats were in contrast to Max's.
I got very, very fortunate. As you guys heard in the last podcast, I sort of at the last minute, our friend Jimmy came through and he said, hey, Mikey, I got you sorted. And I didn't even ask him. I assumed we would be up in the 300s because when I was looking to buy a single ticket, that is 100% what we're talking about, of course, is the Toronto Raptors home opener where they were raising the banner for their championship that they won last season.
And giving the
rings out.
Like substantial, awesome rings.
To everyone that attended the game, you got one of these sort of like memorable sort of whatever you call them, rings, championship ring.
And when you posted the photo, they don't look as good in the photos they do in real life. It almost looked like a plastic piece of shit you'd get from McDonald's for like treat of the week or something.
Yeah.
You got us like it's heavy.
It's awesome. I brought it into work the next day, and
Is
everybody.
it metal?
Yeah, I should have brought it here. Sorry, Eric. I'll bring it on the next one.
That's okay.
It's like it's cool. Like obviously, it's like I don't know what they retail for, but it's like it's got major weight. It feels like it's legit. It's
Sick.
as far as something they gave to 18,000 fans coming in. Oh, look who's walking in!
Whoa,
Maxie boy.
Oh man, very fucking annoyed right now.
Oh man, coming in hot. Get on the mic. We're rolling.
slamming the doors. Hair's a mess.
Man,
Hungry as hell, probably.
I'm starving. I think I was like going through the list of injustices that happened to me this morning. And
Let's hear
and
it.
I was just, I'm going to sue
gonna
that
be a long
person.
pod.
I'm going to sue that person.
list came out.
my brain always, I've never sued anybody. I've never participated in a lawsuit. But
Oh, wow.
Whenever I'm having one of those kinds of days and things start going slightly wrong, I'm just like, that motherfucker's getting sued.
What was your Presto not working?
No, but no, that would have been on the list. That'd be the kind of grievance. No, like I got off the bus and then I have my little carry-on suitcase with me because I'm going right to Halifax today because we're playing there on Saturday. And I got on the Bixie bike to ride my ass to the office here as fast
With
as
rollable luggage?
no, it was
beside
a
you?
little one, so I put it in the buggy thing,
the
in
basket?
in the basket thing up front. So I look like a crazy person.
So you get off the bus in Toronto,
Yeah.
you jump on a Bixie, you throw your luggage into the basket,
Yeah.
and now Max Kerman of Arkells is just booking it through the city to get to the
That's
office.
exactly it. And then the seat starts to go down on me.
Oh shit.
And then I'm like, I'm suing bike share. I look like a fucking fool right now.
That would have been front page.
All right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just kind of a calamity because the reason why I'm late is I took the 10 bus from Hamilton, which should get you here at 11.
Yeah.
11:15 if it's kind of bad. But that time of day, it's usually pretty reliable. And then there was this massive, I sent you guys photos, there was a massive truck accident in Burlington. So basically my bus did not move for 45 minutes or an hour.
I'm only laughing because you sent a picture of it and it looked like a horrible accident and
Yeah.
everyone was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And Mac's like, yeah, some fucking asshole probably drove incorrectly.
Well, here's the thing. It goes to both ways, or one or the other, I suppose, is that if something like really tragic happened, and obviously somebody's
Nobody
dead.
knows either right
Yeah,
now. We don't know
dead,
the
and
nature of
person's
it.
dead. That is absolutely terrible, and there's no way around that. I'm assuming the guy's totally fine. That's where my mind is. That he's just like minor injuries, and he was just acting like a cowboy truck driver. Because one thing we've traveled these highways for many years as a band, and just a lot of these truck drivers are fucking insane. They act like they're in a fucking action movie, and it was a totally. The weather's great outside right now. There's no traffic that time of day. So either he was acting like an asshole that caused his truck to spill, or some asshole in front of him cut him off quickly, and that's what happened. Either way,
Somebody was driving recklessly.
someone's a fucking asshole and fucking ruined my morning. Not to mention tens of thousands of other commuters' morning. So it's like, and by the way, I don't want to punish somebody who got into an accident on the highway and has no money and this will like sink their life, if
Yeah.
somebody is sort of being an absent-minded driver. But there needs to be some recourse. That's more like public shaming, I think.
Sure, more than just sort of having your vehicle ruined.
Yeah, or having a couple demerit points this is I
You
know.
look crazy.
Were you wearing a hat? 'Cause
I was
your
wearing a
hair
hat
is
and
nuts.
sweating to get into this fucking studio. In the office, where the fuck? I'm hungry too. And then I realized I think I'm just starving right now. That was
Yeah.
it.
You're hangry, man.
Hangry, yeah.
I was on the way here. I was thinking about what you said on the last podcast, Shane, about me just being the nicest guy.
Yeah, you're going against that.
Yeah,
Theory
well, this
now,
is it. Is that I'm able to be a nice guy because my life generally goes pretty smooth. The minute there's any bumps in the road, I just become just a fucking flaming asshole.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
agitated right
seeing
now.
that.
Yeah.
We'll eat some egg
Yeah,
bites.
okay, yeah. Thank
I
you.
was actually just setting up our evening at the Raptors home opener where they were raising the banner. So, like I said, that evening, I wasn't sure if I was going to get in. And then I was looking for tickets. My friend Jimmy reached out, and he was basically like, hey, I got you covered. I was just so grateful. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is amazing. I assumed it was going to be up in the sort of like the second deck, that they would call them the 300s level, because that's what I was looking at. That was kind of the applicable thing. And so I didn't even ask him where the seats are, because when somebody says like, I'll take you, he said, just grab me a Coca-Cola and some pizza or whatever. I'm like, Jimmy, like, let me pay for the tickets. He's like, nope, don't worry about it. I go, okay. Again, assuming they're going to be like nosebleeds. We get there. We're staying in like the 100 level as we're walking. They give us the ring. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to unbox this ring once we get to our seats. And then we go to the concession stand, and I'm like, after we get the concessions, we're still in like the 100 section. So I'm like, Jimmy, where are these seats, man? He goes, they're pretty good seats. I was like, okay. And again, like, I don't even want to ask. So then we go in and we start walking, and we're walking down, and we're walking down, and we keep going closer and closer to the court. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, we end up at 8th row from the court. I cannot believe it. I'm literally like, Jimmy, this is insane. Please. I begged him. I was like, let me pay. He's like, stop it right now. He's
How
like,
did he get the tickets?
he ended up finding them apparently like online. He got some crazy deal at like 1 a.m. because he's also like a diehard basketball fan. So he'll watch it. Like he'll refresh every 10 minutes. The way he was explaining it to me.
But
So
bare minimum, how much we saying these tickets had to be?
I don't know. I didn't
Like
ask.
they had to be at least $500 each. You would think, right?
I don't know.
Is Jimmy rich?
I think Jimmy's like any of us. You know, he's got a good job and he sort of.
Do you
does
have like a
things.
big secret on Jim or anything?
No, I don't. I mean, I
What
brought
do you
him-
have on Jimmy?
I got nothing on Jimmy. I brought him to a game last season, and we text about hoops all the time, and like he's
Very
a
sweet guy,
diehard Raptor.
very-
Where was your seat when you took him?
My season seats, they were in the 300s.
So you own one.
jeez.
I own big time, man. So yeah, no, he's a total sweetheart, and again, like we talk basketball. He knows. So he basically just said like, you know, it's fun to go to a game with me because we're like-minded and we're going to get really into the minutia of like why like the 10th guy on the Pelicans is on the floor instead of Lonzo Ball. We'll go deep on that kind of conversation.
Do you
So-
feel pressure to be extra like knowledgeable or entertaining or engaging while you're there?
No, I'm just myself. And Jimmy's cool. We're friends, so I don't worry about like. And it's not like I don't know Jimmy. So it's like if we're quiet for 5 minutes while we're both kind of like Instagramming or something, it's not like, oh, I need to be talking. So it's actually a genuinely really good hang. And like I said, there was just a lot of excitement in the building, and I couldn't believe how good the damn seats were. And then everybody kind of was in the house. Like the Nut was in the house. Max and Mike D from Arkells were there. So our buddy Simon Jane was there. So everybody was kind of plotted in and around like the 100s. It was really great. And then afterward, because there was the West Coast game, which was Kawhi and LeBron, we all decided to pop over to Real Sports. Max sorted us out, as he does, with like a sweet reservation. He's like, 4 of us, let's go to Real Sports and watch the West Coast game.
But before that,
Yeah.
I want to see Mad Max. How did how did it feel to have worse seats than Mike?
I knew you were going to make this up because you texted me. You're like, "Where are your seats? Where are Mike's seats?" Just like pitting us against each other.
I know, and you ignored me, and you just sent me a picture of the ring.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, because I didn't want to indulge in these games. This is the problem: is that like as humans, you get competitive. Remember, I was talking about how I was jealous of Shawn Mendes sitting courtside.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. By the way, the fact we got into the building is incredible, and then like they've taken such good care of us. So for me to even go there in my mind, it's like, oh, Jesse Reyes is sitting courtside. Well, we could probably sell more tickets than Jesse Reyes in Toronto. Like it's just like, and we can. And I'm not saying, but I'm saying no. I'm just kidding. No. It's just I was more just sort of laughing at myself and how human nature works. How so? And by the way, we are treated like fucking gold going into that. Into that arena. Like we have nothing to play. Yeah, so anyway, but it was funny. A couple of people. Because a lot of people recognize Mike and I, and we were like saying hi.
Mike D.
Mike D from the band, but a couple people were like, "Huh, they got you sitting up here, huh, man?" Like they reinforced what you had just texted me. It's like, really, last row in the lower bowl. Huh.
Yeah, you were you had your backs to the wall.
Yeah,
Literally.
I know.
Yeah.
He's like, you think they could have treated you better? I was like, no, this is all fucking hilarious, and like, so I have nothing to complain about.
They were, and your seats were great.
These were great, like,
But pieces of shit compared to Mike's seats. Honestly.
I got very lucky, and yes, honestly, thank you so much to Jimmy. And we all hung out after. But before that, I just want to kind of talk a bit about the experience of being at the game, and you can speak to this, Max. Like watching the banner get raised, and like when they were handing out the rings to like Masai and Kyle, it was like I was very emotional. In some ways, I was thinking about it. It was more enjoyable than going to the finals game, than seeing them win the Eastern Conference Finals in Game 6 against Milwaukee. And I was like, why am I enjoying this more than I enjoyed those sort of like far more pivotal moments? And I realized it's all of the celebration with none of the stakes or pressure. So it's like I have no anxiety. So when everyone was like, how was the experience of like getting the ring and watching the banner and then enjoying it was like, I think I enjoyed it more than any of those other sort of very, very pivotal games, like I said, because it was just all celebration. It just felt good. It felt so good. Did you feel that as well?
Yeah, it was awesome. And like it was almost like in the moment of winning, there's a particular kind of like joy and elation, which is specific to that kind of thing. But it's so chaotic. Like once you've like if you're a player, once you play the game, or if you're a fan, you've been like living this playoff series forever, and then it's like it's all fucking happening. But having the ceremony happen 4 months after, and you've really let it sink in, and you're really just enjoying, and you've had a moment to kind of look back, you're a little more clear-eyed about it or something.
Because you're in a bit of shock. Like after that game, I was like, oh my God, we won, but what if we didn't? What if Steph hit that shot and we didn't win? I know we did win, but what if we didn't? And I still had that weird anxiety of, man, that we almost did not win this, even though we did. Yeah.
Totally. And it's funny, on the last episode, I was like, Mike, I don't really care if I went to the thing or not. And I was saying to Mike after the game, if I didn't make it to that game, I wouldn't have been bummed out. But being there, I kind of recognized, I was like, okay, that's kind of a really special moment that you get to experience maybe once in our lifetime of being there at that particular moment. So I was like, I was really actually very happy that I got to go.
It was great.
Yeah.
And then, so for those of you who listen to us that may follow us on Instagram, you may have saw a photo of myself and Max, Mike D, and the Nut hanging out with Valerio B. So like I said, Max set us up at Real Sports. We went there to watch the West Coast game, which is obviously later here on the East Coast. And one of the things that was funny, so it was me, you, Jimmy, Mike D, and our buddy Simon Jane, and we're all sitting there at Real Sports watching the game on the big screen, and it was Kawhi's debut for the Clippers, which it's almost like watching like an ex out on a date, but like loving, enjoying herself so much.
Looking so hot.
So our table kept doing that thing where like every time Kawhi would like hit like a turnaround or something nice, we'd all go, ooh, it hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, like every nice move Kawhi did, it was just like a little bit of knife in the gut. But so that was funny. And then the Nut basically was like, where are you guys right now? And I was like, we're all at Real Sports. He's like, come to the second floor. I'm like, where? What? It's part of the second floor. He's like, and then he calls me, and then he comes down. He gathers up all five of us and brings us up to the second floor where the Larry O'B's hanging out, and we all get to like hang out. It's like open bar. It was a classic sort of Nut setup. And he's like, everybody, quickly take photos with the Larry O'B before it goes. Now I did photos with the Larry O'B at Bell Media when it was there, and we were not allowed to touch it. So when I went around it, I was very like, I played by the same rules. And Nut was like, he's like, no. He's like, you can touch it. Because I guess this was for like...
Is this the real trophy too?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
So I guess it was like for corporate partners. So like they get a little bit more sort of leeway than when it's on display for the commoners. So I was like making out with the ball. Like there's a photo of me and Max hanging with it. And I'm like kissing it.
Yeah,
openly.
French kiss. Yeah.
Could you pick it up? Like actually pick it up?
I didn't ask that.
No, we didn't know.
I don't even know if I physically can. I'm not a very strong man.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I didn't try. But yeah, so anyway, ended up being a very, very magical night. So, yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great night. And we all called it in like at a decent time.
We were reasonable.
time
Yeah,
are we
it was
talking
like
here?
1 a.m. But
Well,
there was
that's
definitely
later than I
some...
would have thought.
Yeah, definitely some like open bar drinks happening though. Anyway, so the next morning though, I was a little tired, but I knew that I had to be on my A game because our Kels were rehearsing, and my role at this particular rehearsal was important that I be extra sharp.
What, dance choreography?
Yeah, a bit of that. Yeah, a little bit. We laugh, but it's sort of true. And so we go to, actually in the morning, so I actually stayed in your building at Dan Hamilton's place.
You did, yeah.
Yep. And in the morning, I ran into Nick Nurse's assistant coach, who he had just hired. He's a younger guy from Philadelphia named Mark something. I forget his last name. But when Mike Veerman and I went to go see the Raptors practice, he was the one guy kind of on the staff that made a point of going out of his way to come over, shake our hand, introduce himself, and go, hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Turns out that, so I ran to him in the Starbucks, and it turns out that he lives in your building.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I don't know if you remember, but we met briefly. I'm a friend of Nick Nurse's, and he said, oh, Nick's the best. And I asked him a little bit about himself. He's from Philadelphia. He grew up with Kyle Lowry. He played in Iowa for a couple seasons, and this is his first job as a coach. And he's like, I can't say enough about Nick. Nick is just, he's treated me so well. He's given me this shot. I'm so grateful for it. He's like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's very cool. So I got to meet this guy who's on the Raptors coaching staff. We go to rehearsal. This is just going to be me bragging for the next 5 minutes.
I like it. You've had a traumatizing morning.
Yeah, I know.
Let it out, baby.
Yeah. And so NHL Hall of Famer, 5-time Stanley Cup winner, Paul Coffey starts texting me, and he says, hey, because he was texting me the night before, and I told him we were going to be rehearsing. He's like, can I come by rehearsal? So I'm like, all right, come on by rehearsal. So Paul Coffey is sitting there with manager Ash and Sarah, just watching the band rehearse, and we end up having a little lunch together during break. And he's telling me all these stories about seeing Bob Seger and meeting Springsteen briefly. He's a massive music fan. And
What was he like? But all of those don't compare
Yeah.
to this rehearsal.
But he's totally one of those guys that like is sort of fascinated with things, especially outside of the hockey world. You know, he's got a car dealership. He's involved in lots of different things. Still works with the Oilers. So he's just a really interesting guy to talk to. So I was
Wait, the Oilers or Oilers?
what do you mean?
Because you went from car business to oil.
Oh, but no, he works at Edmonton Oilers as
That's
a
where he
Was that
won,
his
won his
team?
championship.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know a lot
He
about
was with
hockey.
Gretzky and all those
And he
guys.
also won one in
I
Pittsburgh.
thought he
too.
played for.
He's played for a bunch of teams.
Detroit for some reason.
I think he might have played for a year there.
I don't know shit.
He was part of those like famous Gretzky Messier teams, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was like the star defenseman, and so anyway, I had to. So by the end of practice though, like I'm pretty tired, and it's like 3:34. I'm getting in the band van. I'm driving myself back to Hamilton because Lauren and I were going to have just a nice kind of quiet date night because I'm here now and I'm flying to Halifax. I'm gone for the weekend. So, you know, you kind of
Much like Wyclef Jean, you're gone till November.
gone till November.
Yeah.
I love that.
I guess am I gone till November?
I don't know. I just wanted to use the song title.
Good song. But so then anyway, so I'm driving home, kind of battling through GTA traffic. I get a text from Nick Nurse, and he goes, "Hey, I got an extra ticket for Elton John tonight. Do you want to go?" And so it really speaks to, number one, how tired I was, and number two, how spoiled I am, that I texted him back. I'm like, I kind of got a date night tonight.
Did you pass?
I passed.
Wow.
And I was like, I was so tired.
Good for you in some ways, though.
And I was like, you know what, Lauren, like, would totally be fine if I went, but I know I was looking forward to like just catching up or hanging, whatever. And I was like, maybe I get a third ticket for Lauren or something, but there's only 2 tickets available. But anyway, and then I called him, and it was kind of going to his machine, so he called me back, and I was like, hey man, like, I would love to go. I'd love nothing more, but I have a date night with Lauren. She's a new nurse, you know. They got these
And he knows nurses.
and I'm away. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Listen, man, I wanna
classic
say-
nurse.
Yeah, who's your number one nurse, her or him?
Yeah, right. I don't know. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm really sorry. So anyway, I couldn't go, but we talked for a bit about the previous night. And I said, like, how was it? Because it was really special to be there. He's like, honestly, man, I didn't think I'd get that emotional about it, but it was like incredible. Like the organization did an incredible job rolling out the ceremony,
Yeah.
and I was like overwhelmed. Like I just like didn't think I thought I'd be like, oh, you know, we've celebrated whatever, but it really got to me. So I was like, okay, well, it kind of confirmed the way we felt.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
that the player reactions and the coaches' reactions were just as genuine.
That's
Are
great.
you worried that turning down this offer is going to ruin future offers?
A little bit,
Yeah.
but then I was trying to think. I was like, you know, there'll be other concerts and other things. But I was truly like, you know, honored that he'd think to ask me.
Is there any artist you would have broken date night for?
Like, what if he was going to see
Springsteen?
Kanye
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. Or Springsteen, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I did see this Elton John farewell tour a couple months ago in New York. Anyway, so I was like, I've kind of seen the show.
Been there, done that is the text.
Done that.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
but shouts to Nick and his assistant Jenny. They sent us those Raptors jerseys too. So,
Oh, those are the throwbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great.
yeah, very nice.
So anyway, great times all around. Really fun stuff.
And watching from the couch was
Yes.
pretty good too.
That's a good point. What was it like to watch from home?
It was like I had a little Mexican burrito bowl.
Ah,
That little Mexican Mike looked at me cockeyed. But yeah, it was fun to be in the comfort of your own home. You know, you're eating, you're watching, you're getting all the best shots because
Yeah.
with the cameras are better than your eyes these days. You know?
Go on.
And it was a fun emotional experience. I didn't go out for drinks afterwards, obviously, because I was just home. And I woke up and I didn't have any hangover because
that's a benefit.
Didn't have any party time.
You know, this is a very kind of glass half full way to look at everything. It's very positive.
Yeah, I did enjoy it seriously. Like we all laugh at me, but I am serious.
Good.
All right.
I when we were talking about it before, I was like, you do actually will see way more things than we're going to see. Like, I'll have to watch it again in order to see whatever you saw, which is more revelatory than from where I was sitting.
And when you listen, the announcers do a great job at
Framing
filling
it all.
you in little details. Like it was the biggest championship ring ever in NBA history. So
Oh, wow, crazy.
Which I didn't
Biggest
know.
physically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until
Whoa.
Shane told me that. Yeah.
Cool.
because I stayed at home.
By choice.
This episode of the Mike on Much podcast is supported by Jameson, where good things come in threes. Let me take a moment to talk about the remarkably smooth and unmistakable taste of Jameson. Maybe I'm relaxing in my living room, listening to my favorite record front to back. Or maybe I'm hanging in a pub with friends having a spirited debate. Or we could be in the middle of recording a podcast right now. Whatever the case may be, I like to have a glass of Jameson in front of me. Jameson ginger and lime or whiskey on the rocks. It all tastes good. Over 200 years of courage, craft, and a collective appreciation for taste in one drink. Jameson. Please drink responsibly. All right, let's get to some of our topics. You guys want to start with Mr. Rogan and Snowden, or do you want to start with No Name, some advertising?
Let's do Rogan.
All right, so Joe Rogan had Edward Snowden, who is a very, very, very famous whistleblower who is still wanted. I believe he is.
He's on the lam.
He's on the lam in a country with no extradition. I believe he's in
Russia.
Russia, yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's a very infamous whistleblower. Some people see him as a hero and somebody that exposed nefarious actions by the government. Other people see him as a traitor and someone who's treasonous that exposed actions by the government that could hurt America, I guess, in international dealings or when it comes to spying or anything of that nature. So he's been on the lam. I guess Joe Rogan ended up sitting down with him for 3 full hours in an undisclosed location.
Was they weren't together though, were they?
No, he was in a remote location.
Yeah.
And so it was like
they were doing it
phoner?
remotely.
Yeah,
literally.
Got you. Shot? Was it video?
It was done the
both?
way we do Max, like where the recording is very clear, and they shot video of it too.
Interesting.
Like clear video.
So this is fascinating for a few reasons. Shane is a listener of Joe Rogan. I believe Max listens to Joe Rogan. Eric, are you a listener of Joe Rogan?
It depends on the guest.
Yeah, I don't listen to every episode.
I have mixed feelings about him as an interviewer. He
We'll
kind
get
of
there.
annoys me.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Dang, dude. So full disclosure, I've listened to, I probably watched like 2 or 3 Joe Rogan interviews online. I think Shane had recommended a couple. And so like I did that, and I don't not listen because I don't think he's good. It's so hard. It's like it's like, oh, I have an hour to maybe put into a pod. I'm gonna probably listen to a basketball.
Yeah,
pod.
and they're all the Rogan interviews are like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, they're
long.
Well,
They
he's,
come out 3 times
he's
a week.
famous for just meandering
Yeah.
about nothing. So it's hard to isolate, like if you don't have 3 hours, to get like that 10 minutes where you're really loving it or everything gets to an awesome moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was like, oh, just check this out, and then you're listening to him be like, I wonder what squirrels think about. And then you're like, this sucks, unless you're really into that world.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the one benefit of this bus being really delayed was that I got to finish the whole interview because I sent this topic yesterday at like 6 o'clock or something like that. It was like there's no way that anybody would be able to, with a normal schedule, would be able to listen to a Rogan interview, with 10 hours to go or whatever.
Yeah.
But
So I haven't heard this interview, but you've listened to the whole 3
did you,
hours.
yeah, almost all of it. Did you listen
Shaney?
to it?
I fell asleep to it on the bus,
Yeah, I
but
fell
then
asleep a little bit
I
today, too.
watched some of it on YouTube. But I didn't feel like, because I was going to listen, but after you sent your questions, it didn't seem like it was relevant to really having listened to it.
Well, I guess okay. The one part was just the interview itself, which ended up just kind of being a Snowden speech. Did you notice it wasn't the typical Rogan back and forth?
Well, because you could tell much in the same time when you call in, you're either totally isolated from the conversation, or when you talk, we have to back away because. When we're in a room together, we read body language on when to cut in, and otherwise, when you're doing a phoner, it's like, oh, yeah, and it's like, sorry, what's that? No, you go. No, you go.
Yeah.
So Rogan's like, I'm just gonna let this guy talk, and I know this is gold because he's so lucky to have him in that platform, and it's such a big risk for both people involved. He kind of just wanted to let Snowden.
What's the Rogan risk? Do you think?
Well, if somebody's pissed off about this, the government could come after him or something.
Come after Rogan?
Yeah, for giving him such a platform to a man that's considered kind of a criminal.
Yeah, maybe I don't know the background on Snowden's interview history with American outlets. I thought he'd done more like speaking engagements than.
People have gone to Russia to talk to him, but I don't know how often he does it. I mean, and he's become like, Oliver Stone. Was Oliver Stone made a film about him?
There's a couple movies I think made about him.
Did you listen to the interview, Erica?
No, I didn't have time. Sorry.
But you know what? We can feel okay about this because Rogan famously does various degrees of research for his interview subjects, and it's so Snowden starts talking. He goes, "Oh wait a second. Oh no." Rogan asked him a question about so how'd you get into this CIA stuff, huh? In the first place, and then Snowden's just like, did you read my book? And then Rogan's like, haven't read the book. Don't even know the book. You wrote a book. So Rogan's whole MO typically is just like, yo, every interview I have is just like me running into you at a bar like don't know you, but kind of like the cut of your jib. Let's fucking talk about shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's not necessarily the most like sort of
I think
classic
that-
interviewer.
But he's
That's
also not a
appealing.
dummy.
No,
like
he's
a
really
lot
smart.
of people act like he's some meathead workout guy, but he's not.
Well, this is what I kind of want to get at, and why, because I think the interview itself is fine. It's more just like talking points from Snowden's book, and I don't think it was the best example of a good Rogan interview. But I think Rogan is really intelligent, and I think he has some sort of like people senses that a lot of journalists don't necessarily have, and he goes to places that a lot of journalists don't instinctively go, but are very human and are very curious, and a lot of people would relate to.
and he's willing to play devil's advocate, and he doesn't kiss ass at all, like
Yeah.
ever. So it always makes for an interesting conversation because sometimes when you just have a podcast that's an echo chamber, it's boring.
Yeah.
But his, even if he totally agrees, he'll play the part of someone who doesn't.
Yeah, they'll go, but what about the people that say this? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing which I find interesting about him is because he has this interesting professional history, which is he was a sitcom actor, then he hosted Fear Factor, and then he was known as the MMA guy. He was known to the American public as all those things because he was on that news radio.
Of course, yeah.
What was it called again?
News radio.
News radio. For the first 20 years of his public life, right? So people just know, it's like, is that the guy?
That show did not go 20 years.
No,
That's how they knew him. That's what he was
but
famous
20
for.
years ago was that. Then it was Fear Factor. Then it was MMA.
Oh, okay. I
That's
see.
what I'm saying.
Sorry.
Yeah, and so it's funny. So I think a lot of people just like see that.
He didn't even mention stand-up, which is actually what his...
That's true.
Right, that's
But
like,
that's not what he was known for.
No, but
Right.
that's probably what got him the gig on news radio. Right?
That's true,
Like,
yeah. And
stand-up,
I think he's a pretty good stand-up, too.
actor, all that
Well,
stuff.
he was like a super handsome young man, too,
Yeah.
who was pursuing acting.
Yeah.
So it kind of so it just leads me to think, or the question for you guys is like, is the way he's presented cloud the criticisms of him, or just his perception? And I think that's just a general question for any of us. It's just like, okay, he's super into fitness. He has this funny career history. Are we taking him less seriously as an interviewer because of those things?
People who don't listen absolutely do. Like everyone thinks he's like a total meathead.
Well, I think the thing is, he's extremely popular. So like when you get people being snarky on Twitter, there's that. So they're like, and also
They're like, oh, fuck this guy, kind of get it.
And then there's like, I always quote that Sloan line, it's not the band I hate, it's their fans. A lot of people feel like Rogan's listeners are like meatheads. That's the thing. It's like
He is the number one podcast in the world. His listeners are those meatheads and everyone
spans
else in the
spectrum.
world.
Exactly. And it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but people are kind of like, it's like people feel like, I guess the listener base is those guys that could then sort of like they point to Joe Rogan as an intellectual or whatever that is. That's not to say that Joe Rogan isn't intellectual, but it's just low-hanging fruit for like snarky Twitter people to sort of take it down. But I think that it's probably motivated by the fact that he is so wildly popular, and he's obviously doing something very effective if that many people listen to him that cross a whole spectrum, like you said.
And I think this is with the Twitter thing that you're talking about, why it annoys me. Or like, there's been a couple profiles about him, like in the Atlantic and Slate, basically just talking how he's a bit of a dunce, or like he's
Really?
Yeah, like
That's kind of the angle?
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
angle, and it just reminds me of just like a high school party. Basically, it's like where like the smarter, geeky people go, fuck that guy, and like can cleverly like take him down. And I just feel like that's such a boring way to assess him. And by the way, it's not to say that there's not flaws in his interview techniques, and it's not to say that you can't just genuinely find him annoying. Like those are all totally fine criticisms. But when I'll have to pull up the Atlantic piece, but it's just like really mean. You're like, no, actually, I think he's actually more curious than most people.
You're not giving him enough
Oh, and
credit.
he's never pretending to be smart. He's always like, keep in mind, I'm a complete idiot. Please tell me this like I'm 4 years old.
Yeah. No, Erica, why don't you like him?
Well, I'm starting to realize now that you're talking about this meathead demographic, my ex-boyfriend really liked him. And that's kind of how I got introduced to him. And my ex-boyfriend is a giant meathead. And and I haven't really given him like a chance since then. And maybe I should.
Circle
and
back
that's
to
it.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I listened to his Black Keys interview. The whole thing took me like 7
What did they
different
talk about in that
sit-downs.
one?
Everything.
It's pretty much the guy with the glasses like running the show. And
He's
kind
funny.
of a
Drummer.
funny guy.
yeah,
already,
and Joe Rogan's like, you should do stand-up.
Oh,
It's
really?
all right.
Yeah, those two guys are kind of like classic, like curmudgeon Gen Xers, I think.
The singer guy doesn't really talk.
No.
though. They seem very nice though.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know much about the Black Keys.
Yeah.
Have you met the Black Keys?
No. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
So
I've
you
s-
think that your distaste for Joe is tied up in your
Honestly, I'm
feelings about your
realizing
ex.
right now in this moment, like I think that's when it started.
There you go.
So maybe everything you guys are talking about, how like people who don't listen, what their perceptions are, that's what mine are.
Yeah,
I think
of
he's
course.
dumb and annoying.
Well, just he talks about
And
this
that's
a
why I
lot.
don't
He's
listen
like,
to
if you
him.
just look at me, I've got my head shaved, I dress weird,
Yeah.
I'm jacked up. He looks like a complete idiot.
The other thing, though,
Yeah.
which is probably a genuine criticism, but we're all guilty of it, is he has these tics that he comes back to, which become memes. Which basically, it's like, have you ever tried that high though? Like he loves what's DBT? You know what's it? Some drug.
I know what you're
some
saying.
hallucination drug.
Yeah.
Right.
So the conversation, like it seems like 80% of the time, always comes back to it's like, but have you tried it on DBT oil or what kind of
CBD.
CBD? No,
Yeah,
that's CBD.
CBD.
Is it CBD?
CBD
Yeah.
oil is from weed.
Okay, yeah, I sound like such a fucking mama's
But
boy.
he's
not
talking about
knowing
the
that,
oil
but-
too that doesn't get you high and just like kind of
Yeah,
relax
he's
you.
into like psychedelics.
Yeah.
And so like he'll be having a conversation with like a serious person, and then he'll just like ask him about that, and he'll go off on some like tangent. But I do like he is very, and I'm kind of attracted to this quality in people in like many different walks of life. If you have the fascination and curiosity of a 9-year-old boy, like I'm super into that. Like whatever, like you could entertain me if you're just like, fuck, my mind is blown right now. We're learning about insects. Like I don't give a shit about insects, but if you have that energy, I can get on board.
It'll make you enthusiastic
Yeah.
about insects.
Yeah.
Well, he's always asking the questions I want to know. Howard Stern does the same thing.
Yeah.
He gets to the point of what the general population actually wants to hear about, and
But are too polite to ask.
It's not even rude what he asks. He just
Like Stern used to ask a lot about what do you make, or like what are you doing in the bedroom, like questions that you would not ask. That's why Stern was so exciting because he's like.
But I don't think Stern's any less exciting now, even though he's less abrasive.
I agree. I think he has the juice to still ask what somebody makes on a movie. You know what I mean? But it's just like I'm just saying nobody gets away with that except it would seem Rogan and then Stern.
Yeah, Rogan does it in a very like way that anyone could do. I think without like famous side.
Yeah, it's tough though. I think that like. I think that their subjects, like you'll see it with Stern, they're still uncomfortable when Stern asks them what they make, or they'll be uncomfortable when they ask them about their sex life, and they don't like it. But because it's Stern, they're like they go along with it. I think anybody else, and it was like the interview would get killed. And it seems like Rogan now, because of popularity and success, might be able to go to those places as well.
But I think he got to that popularity and success from being that way.
doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's a question for you guys: is that he's also drawn heat for interviewing people like Ben Shapiro or Alex
Yes.
Jones. These
Platforms
and-
to
And
Yeah,
Jordan
and-
Peterson.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson. And it's funny because it's like I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because on one hand, like simply giving someone a platform. We've talked about this before. Like simply giving someone a platform, that in itself is a bad thing, and there's no way around it. Period. So you shouldn't have it on. On the other hand, it's like when you interview someone like Ben Shapiro. I don't agree with Ben Shapiro politically on most things, but you get a fuller picture of this guy, how he came to be the way he is, and like. Is there anything we can learn, even if you disagree with 97% of what he's saying? Is there like a 3% insight, 4%, whatever the final math is, that we can learn and go, oh, okay, that actually opens my mind a little bit, and maybe that's helpful. I don't
Well, I
know.
guess
Like that's the way I kind of feel about when I'm listening to someone who I disagree with. I'm like, I don't agree with like most of the shit you're saying, but you have opened my mind in this other category that I haven't really thought about much, and that's I guess valuable. I don't know.
I guess we can have conversations with people we disagree with unless they're like objectively evil or detrimental to society. And that I think maybe what's the other
Alex
guy?
Jones.
Alex Jones would be
The one
in that
case,
category.
yeah, he'd be like in the spectrum
And
of it.
he seems like very, very off. But Ben Shapiro kind of might be more accessible to talk to and have a conversation with.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like sometimes I find with another reason why I like Rogan is when you find with these like public pariahs, there are questions where people are like, I'm not gonna fucking talk to that person. There is sometimes like I would love just to know. It's like, can you just like walk us through like why you did that thing, or like can you like make any sense of this or give any rationalization? And when someone is in that position, they usually don't get an opportunity to totally explain their very odd behavior. And I appreciate Rogan for that because he seems to be one of the guys that is willing to just go like, I know it's not popular that I'm giving this person a platform, but I kind of want to question him and then give him a retort as well.
Right, and then leave it to the listener to come to their own conclusions after sort of listen. Either you can go, that was bullshit, and this person's, or you can go, I believe that, or buy that, or whatever. That would be the sort of reason for doing that.
Yeah.
Let people come to their own conclusions.
Would we? Okay, let's say Ben Shapiro comes through town. Do we have him on this podcast?
See, like this is the thing. It's like I probably not,
Right.
Because it just wouldn't be worth it. But it's like I think sometimes about like heads of industry, where you go, like I'd love to interview like I don't know the CEO of Walmart, and you're like, couldn't you just give everybody $18 an hour? Like
You could, but philosophically, it would be sort of antithetical to capitalism and what the whole point.
No,
of
I know,
is.
but it's okay. Let's say head of Walmart, you make fucking $10 billion a year in profit. And then if you gave everybody $20 an hour, you'd make $5 billion in profit. And then you could even make an agreement that goes, hey, if we ever dip below $7 billion in profit, we need to take all that money. But if we make any more than $7 billion, but we are going to, I would just love to be able to, and for them to give me an answer, and then for me to go, but really?
But I don't even think that. So one, I don't think those people have nothing to gain by having those conversations.
No, I know they have nothing to gain from having the conversation, but this is the kind of
And
thing
if they give you honest answers, it would make them look terrible.
But sometimes I'd actually I'm probably, and that's
Like they might just be like, because we don't want to, and it goes against our business ethic.
yeah, fair enough. But why I like Rogan is I have this hypothetical
Right.
fantasy where Rogan would go, but bro, man, and he'd appeal to you in a
Yeah.
very human way, not in a journalistic 60 Minutes kind of way. We'd be like, but wouldn't you life's not about that, man. Life's about connections and community. You got so much money. What are you going to do with it? And we'll put in provisions. It'll never go less than $7 billion a year in profit. Why don't you fucking do it, man? And then no, don't give me that shit. They give the company line or whatever, and you go, no, don't do that. Anyway, that's why, and I feel like he has the balls and the sort of charm and charisma to be able to have those kind of conversations, which makes him a unique interviewer, and unlike those fucking.
Well, because he knows he can't be canceled too. Like when he has his buddies on, he will use the F word to describe gay people in a joking manner to his friends, and it never makes headline news. It doesn't do anything. It gets buried. He'll just say the word and he'll be like, "Fine, go cancel me." He just doesn't care.
Interesting, and he's built up enough. Not that we're condoning that, but he's built up enough of a sort of full profile of who he is as a human to his community that I guess people.
But it is
No, but it's
interesting
not-
that no one even tries to cancel him.
It's a numbers game, like Shane says.
Yeah.
Like he's uncancelable because he has his army, just like Trump has an army, just like progressive people on the left have an army, like all those guys who do Pod Save America. It's like if you have a built-in audience, we discussed this before. It's why we'll see if Louis is able to tour. If enough people will show up to a theater, Louis will go back on the road. You can't, and he can go direct to consumer. So
I don't think it even is that, because Louis can obviously tour stand-up places, but let's say he goes to Air Canada Centre where he played last, and then Taylor Swift's like, I object to that. So although he maybe could sell out Air
Right.
Canada Centre, the next guest to make a public statement might say, I'm not going to play there. And the next guest might say, I'm not going to play there.
Right. So, but that may be the Air Canada Center. So I'm saying he could.
But
do
I'm
theaters.
saying, but people at theater level might object who aren't in the art scene. He can do comedy clubs because all comedians stand by Louis.
Well,
There's like a 90% approval.
Yeah. So like we're talking about platforms. So Joe Rogan does a podcast, right? So it's like he
Yeah.
doesn't need a venue for that.
Oh, just you talked about Louis C.K.
I'm saying that Louis can still tour.
He can in comedy
Because he
clubs,
has an
not to
audience.
the level. He can tour like 10% of what he was doing.
Yeah, I guess the point I was making is it's like you can only be canceled if they can take something away from you, right? So it would seem like if people will have him. So to your point,
So they can take it away from Louis.
if the venues won't have him, but he's already
And the
touring.
venues won't have him.
But he's touring.
In smaller venues, he's losing $30 million a year
How?
through not playing big venues.
But how do you lose? But it's not like it costs the money to go on the road.
He's missing out on 30
He-
million.
Oh,
The-
okay. So
the crowd.
potential earnings or what he used to earn.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I'm talking about. That even Joe talks about this on his podcast, how comedians can't be canceled typically, except for Louis, if
Well-
you do something extreme to hurt someone.
I guess if we're talking about sponsors, then Rogan could lose sponsors if he did say something crazy. So I don't know who his sponsors are. I don't know how he makes his. I'm guessing he makes his money through sponsors.
Yeah.
But his audience will follow him anywhere. But you see this, like even like Fox News, one of those people will say something, one of their like talking heads, where it's like Hannity or Tucker Carlson, and then they'll lose like 5 sponsors, and it's like these sponsors knew what they were getting into, but then they'll kind of weirdly back out, and then they quietly go back like 6 months later. But yeah, anyway, the point I was making is I was agreeing with you. I think that anybody, whether you're left, right, middle, whatever it is, if you have an audience that will come to you, and you don't necessarily need anyone else to sort of like fund you, then you can stay on forever. Like podcasts can be released forever. Like what are iTunes and Spotify going to ban him? Like that's what would have to happen. Like basically like, and then they'd have to go to a website that he could create, and then the internet would have to ban him. You know what I mean? So it's like there is real power in that, and I guess Joe knows that he has that.
Yeah,
power.
and it's interesting though. He's so popular, and he says these things, and then it never makes news that he would say it. But if someone who has something to lose says it, then it's headline news because all the people seem to do is want to make it news so they can take the person down.
Yeah, and also depends
know-
on like how that person has presented themselves and like the context of their fame and the context.
Sure, there was a comedian though for SNL, the guy who
Shane
tried
Gillis.
out, and then he said the C word,
Yeah.
and then he got taken down, and he was a comedian, and that he presented himself as kind of that type of comedian.
Yeah. So anyway, interesting stuff. So
Joe Rogan, check him out, man. He needs some more listeners. This guy's struggling out there.
struggling, man. It's hard out there. Okay.
You know what? I saw him at the comedy club in LA. This is within the last year or so, and he was amazing. Really good stand up, and that's like he's like weirdly underrated when it comes to that. I
Well,
think
he works his ass off. He goes as famous as he is. He's still out there 4 or 5 times a week, like just working shit out.
just working shit out, and also like at, we're in the Comedy Store. There's like I don't know a couple hundred people there because that's the capacity of the venue, and anybody can just go up to him afterward. And a lot of people who go to those shows are like fans of his podcast, but he's just like shooting the shit with everybody. Like it's very cool.
I just want you guys to listen to this song and tell me what you think. This isn't a rap song. I know. People
Wait, are we into your subject yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're moving on. This is Shane's surprise to close us out.
I'll introduce myself, Mike. I just want you guys to listen to this song.
Okay.
To introduce my segment here. Tell me what you guys think.
Can't you see that I'm almost home? And I can feel that I've been gone too long.
All right.
What do you guys think of that?
I think it sounds like Dust in the Wind.
Dust in the Wind. Do you think it sounds anything like Shallow?
A little bit.
To me, it sounds like close my
Yeah.
eyes only for a moment, then the moment's gone. But Shallow,
A little bit. There's a sound.
I see what you're saying.
Shallow's a little
ascending
slower,
thing,
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But yeah, similar.
Well, because this guy is suing. He came out with this song in 2012, and there's comparisons on YouTube where they take little bits of this song, little bits of that song. And
Interesting.
but in the comments section, one person does say it sounds like Dust in the Wind. It's funny you say that.
Yeah, that's what it sounded
good
like to me with
observation.
the picking and the melody. That first melody for sure, the first line.
But it's funny, just when you have like it might be a ripoff, all I could hear is "I want more," whatever the lyric is
in
Shallow.
in "Shallow."
Oh yeah. Are you just
Is it
recycling one of my
something
pot
that
topics?
No. I just this.
Max in the pod group had Lizzo's in one of these things right now.
Yeah, and there's also what's it? There's a song by Jay.
Oh, you have notes.
Papers.
Jace, just one piece of paper with a name written on it. There's, the guy's bringing in papers. Look at this guy. He's looking at Jace Harley. So there's a guy named Jace Harley, and he has a song called "American Pharaoh," and it sounds exactly like "This Is America" by Childish Gambino.
Oh, I remember when that came out.
Yeah.
Did you guys check with the Lizzo examples? Did you ever listen
Yeah,
to them?
I did.
Yeah.
There's one also Coldplay and Vita La Vida that is I think Coldplay might have lost that one or definitely settled because it was like holy shit I'm like this is 100% dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun it's anyway this shit happens all the time.
So, how do you guys feel when, like, first, what do you think of this when this happens in music? You're in music,
Yeah.
and when someone takes like a line, like in the Lizzo thing, and for like Mike and Erica, how do you feel when someone takes like a joke of yours or an idea you had, and they don't even really know they've taken it, and they say it out loud, and it gets a laugh or gets credited? How do you feel about that?
Angry.
Yeah,
Yeah, really angry. Because it's like, that's
does
your
that
idea.
happen to you?
Sometimes I'm like the funniest person in my friend group, and sometimes I hear my other friends regurgitating my jokes, and I'm like, I did
I'm
it
gonna
better,
sue you.
but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like me. I'm just pulling up this Lizzo.
The song thing's interesting though because a lot of the best songs are also like the simplest songs I find, and like for example that Viva La Vida, that dun, dun, it's so simple, right? So it's like you can, I don't know, it's hard to argue similarities sometimes.
But sometimes simple to play doesn't mean simple to come up with. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because a melody is like kind of genius.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
And those strings have a very unique sound. They're like they're strings. It's not just like an acoustic guitar. A lot of singer-songwriter stuff sounds the same because
Yeah.
there's only so many chords on a
Yeah.
guitar. But this was like, it was produced, the strings, people can hear it if they look it up. I lean more that I think, like we Shane and I work, we work in advertising, and it's like you'll see commercials that look like something that's been seen before all the time. And sometimes you go, oh yeah, they probably ripped that off, or they nicked it, or they saw it on British TV and they're going to try and pass it off here, and it's kind of slightly different. And other times you go, that feels like that seems like an idea that I myself have thought of independently. So like-minded people can come up with the same sort of stuff when it comes to like sort of ideas. I bet you if you talk to stand-up comedians, they go into rooms and there's this huge thing in stand-up where it's like they're stealing bits, and then other people are like if you're doing like an airline bit, everybody does a version of an airline
But that's
bit.
that's a concept. If
Sure.
you steal the joke, it's different, and comedians know how to delineate between the two.
Totally, but sometimes two comedians can have the exact same joke and come to it independently, and it's figuring that out.
Sometimes, but often once you boil it down, the comedian has taken it on a subconscious level without realizing and lifted it. Joe Rogan famously interrupted Carlos Mencia, barged on his stage, and kind of called him out, and that kind of canceled his career.
See, but I've heard him talk. I've heard him sort of not defend Amy Schumer, but like sort of she got a big thing for her first season of her show. Copied a lot of I think it was like Mad TV, Appeal, and all that shit. And it's like sometimes there's a subconscious thievery. Sometimes there's like nefarious actor like Carlos that it seems like it's like, well, look at this body of work. It's like he's got a whole spectrum of stolen jokes that you can point to stuff.
Robin Williams was another one.
Yeah, who's actually Robin was famous for having to pay guys. Like he basically just be like, Robin became very wealthy, so he just be like,
couldn't
sorry,
go to
sorry.
shows anymore because he's like, I'm not doing it on purpose. This is just getting into
my brain sees it and then I regurgitate it. But I also think that like songs and jokes that like two people can come to the same conclusion or sort of come to the same creative place because we're all influenced by the same pop culture.
Yeah,
Do you
well,
know what I mean?
there's the old expression like the good ones borrow, the great ones steal, or whatever. And I totally believe it. And I always kind of get a kick out of these lawsuits because I really think that like there's a lot of songwriters out there that just like go, oh, that thing, I'm stealing that exact thing and putting it into my song.
Like put your hands in the air, wave them around like you just don't care. I hear that a lot in a lot of songs.
Yeah, well, there's that. I mean, but there's less obvious examples, but to the songwriter's mind are super egregious. And I could probably go through some like Arkell shit. Like I think and even like Springsteen would talk about, like, oh, I was just trying to rip off Roy Orbison, or like, oh, I was just trying to be Bob Dylan, or these were like an expression that so-and-so would use or whatever. So it's like, so it only becomes a thing in popular culture these days when the song gets really famous, because otherwise it's just not worth anybody's time to like go through all the legal battles. So when you hear about The Shallow or a Lizzo song
Or This Is America.
it's because the song is or Viva La Vida, it's because the song is so fucking big and somebody goes, if I can get fucking 5% of that songwriting, that's what I'm going to do. Otherwise, so I don't really live in fear of it because I never assumed that anything would become that big. And if it did become that big, if somebody wants like 5% of it, I'm like, all right, whatever, you can take it. And that's why people end up settling, because Sam Smith had to settle with Tom Petty for I Won't Back Down.
Yep, and Stay With Me.
But okay, what is more interesting is this Lizzo thing, which so this is the Truth Hurts thing. This is the original.
I'm 100% that bitch, even when I'm crying crazy. I just did a DNA test, turns out I'm 100% that bitch, even when I'm.
Well, that woman's voice sounds exactly like Lizzo.
So the context for that, okay, that's an Instagram post from a songwriter in LA. His name is Justin Raisin.
And I was kidding, of course, because Lizzo was the vocalist on both of those.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, anyway.
And so basically, Justin Raisin puts out this statement on Instagram going, on April 11, 2017, we wrote a song called Healthy with Lizzo, Jesse St. John, and Yves Rothman at our studio. Quote, I just took a DNA test. Turns out 100% that bitch was taken from Healthy and used in Truth Hurts. So the original demo was called Healthy. We were never contacted about being credited for the use of the part of the Healthy, and that appeared on Truth Hurts. After reaching out to Ricky Reed and Lizzo's team about fixing, Ricky Reed's the producer of Truth Hurts, we put the song in dispute in 2017 when it came out. We've tried to sort this out quietly for the last 2 years, only asking for 5% each, but we're shut down every time. Coming forward publicly to family, friends, artists, and colleagues seems to be the only way to get this point, whatever. So then, if we believe what she's preaching, believing in ourselves and our own voices, that's something we thought she'd understand. Shout outs to the singer Mina Lioness for
That's when it gets crazy.
yeah, for tweeting, I just did a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% that bitch. A meme that came out during our writing session inspired the lyric and melody that we wrote together. So there's like a few layers to this. You guys
Yeah,
following
that's
this?
really interesting.
Yes.
So basically, this is where like the songwriting game gets kind of complicated because in LA, there's basically like songwriting camps. So if you're an artist like Lizzo, you'll go collaborate with a bunch of people, and there's a very good chance that something you did in one session might go, oh, actually, I'm gonna take that demo and use it over here. And then you go, okay, but who? Because usually the rule of the game is if you're in the room, you get a percentage of the song, whether or not you actually came up with a particular idea or not. So what Lizzo and Ricky Reed are saying, it's like, listen, sure, that song was conceived a few years ago, but you people in the room that day didn't have anything to do with that particular lyric. It happened to do with the meme that we saw, that Lizzo saw on the internet that day. And so we're going to give songwriting credit to the meme writer, which is what Lizzo has done now in the last couple days. She's admitted that. But she's saying to everybody else in the room that participated in that original demo, I'm not giving you anything. Which then begs the question, it's like, okay, how does a song get written? If you're truly writing with the world around you, should you be giving credit to everybody who was sort of a part of it? You know
And
what I
what's
mean?
the most important part? Is it the lyrics? Is it the melody? Is it the beat?
Yeah.
And maybe a rap song lyrics are probably more important, and a beat is probably more important.
But they might have a version of it. It's like, hey, you know what? It's like we created an atmosphere in the studio that original demo day where it allowed that creativity to happen. And this was like under like the legislation of songwriting rules. It wasn't just like I had a conversation with someone at a bar, which would be outside of that. It was like we are here to write a song. Everybody knows sort of the unwritten rules of what that means. And yeah, and Lizzo's choosing to go, no, fuck that. I don't comply in this particular situation. I'm only going to give credit to the meme writer.
Is she giving 5% to the meme writer?
I don't know what she's giving.
Interesting.
I think it speaks to what they think about those producer dudes.
Yeah.
They probably think, like, you know what I mean? Like, we were the talent in the room that day. We came up, she's like, I came up with that melody. This is where I got the idea from. And again, yeah, like, it's so fascinating to me because it's like, wouldn't it be easier just to give those guys their 5% to make them go away? Unless you really feel so strongly, fuck those guys.
Yeah.
Especially to be this petty and then give it to the person that created the meme.
And what's truly ironic here is that without even realizing it, I did copy your topic idea.